and welcome to United Church Online. We're so glad that you decided to join us today.
If you're new to United Church, we would love to be in touch with you. So why not fill in our Connect card on the link in the description or visit our website for more info.
So let's ready our Bibles, notebooks, and pens as we prepare to receive the word together.
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Who is this Jesus? Do you know him? Have you heard the stories? Legends, folklore, eyewitness accounts, scriptures, and prophecies all speak of this one man. Why is it that 2,000 years after his death, we still speak about him? What is it about Jesus that is so attractive, so attention-grabbing, so magnetic that it pulls you in? Though he was a man, he was no ordinary man. Could he have truly been the Son of God? Come with us on a journey of discovery as we go through 4 portraits of Jesus. We will meet Jesus the servant, Jesus the lion, Jesus the lamb, and ultimately, Jesus the king.
I've washed a lot of feet. That's what servants do. When guests arrive, we bring the water, we kneel down, we wash the dust of the road from their feet. The roads around here are dirty, filthy. By the end of the day, everyone's feet are caked in dust and sweat. So, when a group of men came in that evening, I noticed something strange. No one moved. No servant stepped forward. No disciple offered. And the water basin just sat there. You could feel the awkwardness in the room. These men had been arguing earlier. I heard something about which one of them was the greatest. Great men don't wash feet. Everyone knows that. Then he stood up. Their teacher, Jesus. I'd seen important men before. Religious leaders, wealthy travelers, men who demanded service. But this man, he took off his outer robe. He wrapped a towel around his waist and he picked up the basin. I remember freezing where I stood because that's what I do. That's my job. But there he was, kneeling before them, washing their feet, one by one. The room went quiet, wiping the dust from the skin of their feet, like it mattered, like they mattered. Their teacher, their leader, on his knee. No one speaks when a king enters a room, but that night, the king knelt, and suddenly, I understood something. Greatness doesn't look like power in his kingdom. It looks like a towel and a basin. I've served many people in my life, but that night, I saw something different. A king who chose to serve, and that's when I realized Jesus isn't just a teacher. He is the servant king.
The servant king. Isn't that an oxymoron? Aren't those two things opposite in ideas? Maybe this is the magnetism that draws people in. A leader who doesn't lord it over his people. A king who actually cares for his people. A ruler who models what he wants to see in his kingdom. That ruler is Jesus, the king above all kings. Yet, he chooses to serve his people. What is this upside down kingdom? It's countercultural. Maybe this is the reason why our hearts long for him. Our souls cry out for him. Jesus, the servant king.
They dragged me through the streets, no mercy, no dignity. Hands pulling, voices shouting, and stones held tightly in their palms. I knew the law. Everyone did. This is how my story ended. Dust on my knees, shame in the air. A circle of men ready to prove their righteousness. And in the middle of them, he stood, Jesus. They were ready to throw their accusations like weapons. The law said she must die. They weren't looking at me. They were looking at him. Waiting, testing, hoping he would fail. But he did not rush. He did not argue. He bent down and wrote in the dust. The crowd pushed closer, holding stones tightened in their fists. Then he stood, and when he spoke, it wasn't loud, but it carried weight that silenced a crowd. Let the one without sin throw the first stone. One sentence, that's all it took. The stones fell first. Then the footsteps followed. One by one, they walked away. The men that came like wolves left like frightened, shameless sheep. And suddenly it was quiet, just him and Noor. He looked at me. No disgust. Something I've never seen before. Mercy. He then asked me, where are your accusers? I could barely speak. They are gone. Then he said words that changed everything. Neither do I condemn you. Go. Leave your life of sin. In that moment, I understood something. That men came to destroy me, but he came to defend me. Not with violence, not with shouting, just authority, just truth. Like a lion stepping into a circle, and every enemy retreats. That day, I met my defender, not just a teacher, not just a prophet, the lion who stands for the guilty, the lion who is also the king.
I've carried out many executions before. Rome does not ask questions. They give orders and we follow them. This morning was no different. Another prisoner, another crowd, shouting for blood. This was no different. They called him Jesus. Some said he was a teacher. Some said a troublemaker. Others said he claimed to be a king. I've seen men face crucifixion before. They cursed, they screamed, they begged, but not him. When we nailed him to the wood, he did not fight. When the crowd mocked him, he did not answer. When the pain should have broken him, he spoke words I'll never forget. Father, forgive them. Forgive them? Who says these words while being crucified? The sky grew dark that afternoon. The ground beneath us trembled. The men beside me grew quiet, and then he cried out and breathed his last. I stood there, staring at this man on that cross, the man we just executed, and suddenly it struck me. This wasn't just another criminal. This was not just another man. This man chose this, like a lamb led to the slaughter. And at that moment, standing beneath that cross, I came to the realization, surely, this was indeed the Son of God.
And so this morning we have the opportunity just to sit and learn and reflect. And I want to share with you a couple of things before we wrap up. We're nearly at the end of our service. There's not too much more to say. However, what's really amazing is when we kind of think of this whole idea of the portraits of Easter, I mean, most of you would have seen, we've kind of been advertising it. But what artwork has the ability to do is, it has the ability to create a bit of a paradigm shift for us. Paradigm shifts happen all the time. Maybe it might have happened to you. Just for those who need clarity, a paradigm shift is a moment that really changes your perception of reality. Something that changes how you perceive a reality. Let me give you an example. My first job, I worked at Truworths Man directly after high school. I was in retail. And for those of you who have been there, you are mourning for me right now because you know how that was. But there was a moment where I used to travel to work with taxi. And so what I would do is, catch a taxi in the morning to Joburg and then from Joburg to where I worked. And the one day, got into the taxi and I was on my way, and obviously we stopped along the way, and we stopped to pick up a young couple. And they got into the taxi, and obviously everybody's about their own business, so nobody pays attention to who gets in. But as this young couple got into the taxi, man, they smelled bad. It was bad. And suddenly everybody in the taxi paid attention because they were like, woo! And windows were being opened, and South Africans, we comical by nature, so people started giggling, and words were being said, and it's just like, for the duration of the rest of that taxi ride, that was the thing. It's like, Until a couple of robots down, the young couple got out, and that's when we noticed that they weren't a couple, it looked like siblings, and the one got out and took the other one by the hand, and we realized the second one was blind. And as she took them by the hand, they got out the taxi, and as they got out, they turned around, and she took a container out, and they started begging from the taxi they just got out of. Paradigm shift. How many of you know that moment reality changes? At first you're thinking, oh wow, all the comments that can go through your head. Don't we own soap? What? And in that moment, everyone was like, oh, they are homeless and they are beggars. The situation suddenly makes sense. It was one of the lowest moments of humanity for me where I realized I think we can be a bit more compassionate. And I think that for me perfectly illustrates this reality. That when reality hits and our perception changes. There's another artist duo. I think their names are Tim Noble and Sue Webster, if I'm not mistaken. They create this all the time. They force paradigm shifts onto people. One is the artwork they have. I'll show you a picture of what the first one looks like. It's this really funny, abstract kind of looking portrait that comes up. You can put that first artwork up. There we go. It looks like that. You walk into the museum and these are the types of things you see. And for people who are artists, I've studied graphic design, I have an appreciation for art. We kind of already like, oh wow, I see what the artist is doing. But normal people are like, and then the moment hits when they shine a light onto the artwork. And then you realize, oh, it's a portrait. It's a side profile of a man and a woman. But you'll never see that from the abstract portion. Light needs to shine onto it for you to see what it really is. If you go to the following one, it's the same thing. It's just these random sticks and things. And you walk in and again, you're probably confused. But when you go to the following one, you realize, oh, In the darkness, when light shines onto it, that's what it looks like. And they do this all the time. Their works are filled with galleries all over the world. They've got one where there's just a pile of rubbish on the floor, and when the light shines onto it, it's actually silhouettes of people. And this is really all they do. And I love this idea of what they're conveying, that when light shines onto something, there's a paradigm shift. Jesus does this all the time. That when the light of Christ illuminates our world, we have a paradigm shift. Something in our perception changes. There's so many portraits of Jesus that are presented as one thing, and when the light shines onto it, we see something else. Most of us know this. I mean, you've seen them. We've got Jesus the Lamb. You've seen the artworks. You might know the reality of Jesus the Lamb. In fact, the first century Jews knew this idea of a lamb very well, because for them, they were so familiar with the lamb. What was it? A lamb was the token of their sacrifice and worship. You go to the temple, you slaughter a lamb. It had to be without spot and blemish. And that's what you sacrifice. Until John appears, John the Baptizer, and he sees Jesus coming and he says, "Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." And for them, they would have been like, no, we know lambs. This is what we use lambs for. A lamb braai, a lamb spit. And suddenly, light shines onto the portrait and they have a paradigm shift. Oh wait, lambs were an atonement for our sin. Once a year, the priest would cast the sins of the nation onto a lamb, and he would release it into the desert. That lamb was called the scapegoat. Most of you know the term now as someone who takes the fall for someone else. That was the scapegoat. They knew that image, but suddenly the portrait had a whole new meaning. Jesus became our sacrificial lamb. The lamb who took away our sin. See, it's one thing for him to be the lamb who takes away the sin of the world. It's the world's sin. I've got nothing to do with that. People are mean, people are funny, people are weird. Jesus, take away their sin. It's another thing for Jesus to be the Lamb of God who takes away my sin. This portrait has to become real to me. The second portrait is Jesus the servant. See, this one hits hard. Because in the ancient world, servants were servants, rulers were rulers. You never got the two confused. There was never confusion about which is which. The rulers rule and they let the servants know that they are servants. And then Jesus steps onto the scene and he says, "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many." Suddenly, there's a shift in perspective, because what we thought was a servant turns out to be a ruler in disguise. I mean, for those of you who might be familiar with the show Undercover Boss, this is the greatest episode of Undercover Boss ever. 1 minute he's a servant, oh, he's the CEO. No, 1 minute he's a servant, oh, he's the creator of the universe. And he serves us. One of my pastors said this, and it hit me quite hard when he said it. He said, Jesus put down the title of leadership and he picked up the towel of servanthood. He put down the title of leadership and he picks up the towel of servanthood. That's so different to our culture, because we want the title of leadership. We don't want the towel of servanthood. Everywhere we go, we want to be served. Our status is shown by how well we are served by others, not by how well we serve. See, here's what we realize. When the light shines onto the portrait of servanthood, it shows whether we've received the revelation and the paradigm shift or not. If we begin to live lives of servanthood, it means that something's changed. But until we are willing to pick up that towel and serve others, It means that the light hasn't shone onto our hearts yet. Let me read you this following verse. If you go to the next one for me, please. It says, adopt the same attitude as that of Jesus Christ, who existing in the form of God, did not consider equality with God something to be exploited. Instead, he emptied himself by assuming the form of a servant. He emptied himself by assuming the form of a servant, taking on the likeness of humanity. See, at some point for us, the reality of servanthood needs to become real to us. The greatest act of service in human history was the cross. The cross was the greatest act of service. If we don't see it as Jesus serving humanity on the cross, it will only ever be a token. But until we see it for what it is, that's how Jesus served us. That's how he served us. He gave up his life on the cross. The third one, and you know this one, it's the lion. I love this image. There aren't too many references. They span between the Old and the New Testament in Revelations of Jesus being the Lion of Judah. And you kind of really need to kind of understand the background. See, the 12 tribes of Israel, one of them was called Judah, the 12 sons of Joseph. One of them was called Judah. And that's the lineage that Jesus came from. He came from the lineage of Judah. And he became known as the Lion of Judah. And here's what lions are. Lions are defenders. Lions are conquerors. The image of a lion is one of a conqueror. Revelation chapter 5 verse 5, you can put the verse up. It says this, then one of the elders said to me, do not weep. Look, the Lion from the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has conquered so that he is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. The picture of Jesus being a conqueror, being a lion who comes and defends and ultimately conquers. We need to understand that because of this reality, once the light shines onto that portrait, what we are left with is an image of victory, not an image of defeat. See, here's what's crazy. In the first century, the cross looked like defeat. It looked like he was gone. I mean, even some of the servants were like, you've saved many others, save yourself. What are you doing here? Come, do something. Show your strength. And much like, if you've ever gone on safari, you realize they don't really care about anything. They're not going to perform for you. So it's like, come lion, do lion things. If they are chilling, they are chilling. It's like, no, go hunt, quick. It's like, no, I've got nothing to prove to anyone. That's what a lion does. It knows its strength and it doesn't have to prove anything. In that moment, Jesus knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't need to prove anything. He is the defender. He is the conqueror. That act on the cross was the greatest act of victory. He conquered sin and he conquered death. On the cross, Jesus conquers. That's what he does. He conquers. We no longer have to live timid, sheltered lives, thinking that it's still to happen. It's already happened. We live in the implications of the victory of Jesus. Can I encourage you with this? For some of us as Christians, this probably needs to be the biggest portrait that needs to be illuminated in our lives. We've got the Lamb of God that takes away our sin. We've done that. We've got the servant. We understand what Jesus came to do for us. But for many of us, this is the one we struggle with because for some reason we still live as if Jesus has not defeated sin and death. We still live as victims of our past. We still live as victims of our sin. We still live as victims of ourselves. We still live as victims of others. And we live as if Jesus hadn't conquered what he has. The reality is for each of us, one of these portraits needs to be illuminated in our lives so that we can walk away with a paradigm shift. which one will that be for you? Every year, Easter comes around without fail. We don't skip it. The reality of it hits every single time. This morning is no different. So just for a moment, with every head bowed and every eye closed, I would love for us to reflect. This needs to become real. For you, maybe you're familiar with Jesus the Lamb, and maybe for some of us, that's what needs to become real. You've seen Jesus as the Lamb of God, but you haven't allowed Him to take away your sin. You've either still lived in sin, or you are completely oblivious that you have sin that He needs to deal with. Maybe this is your moment to encounter the Lamb. He has taken away your sin. It should no longer be a factor. He's done with it. He's dealt with it. Some of you have been fighting. You've been trying to get over this thing, and you've been doing it in your own strength. Let Jesus deal with your sin. Let Him remove it. Let Him cleanse you. Give Him room to do that. Secondly, for some of you, you need to recognize Jesus the servant who's come to serve humanity on the cross. Understand that He is the servant king. It's not weakness. For some of us, this is the next step for us, is we need to begin to live lives of service. We still live like the world does, wanting to be served, and it's evident that the light hasn't shone in that area, because the moment it does, we will want to be servers of others. And finally, for some of us, the image of the lion needs to be illuminated for us to begin to see the victory behind it. Maybe at some point you thought, I can't worship a God who dies, not realizing that death is only the first part. There's still a resurrection. He didn't just die, He was raised to life. The entirety of the Easter weekend shows victory, not just Friday. Sunday is still coming, and we get to walk in victory.
We trust that this message was helpful to you.
We would love for you to stay in touch. So follow us on our Instagram at United Church SA or contact us on our WhatsApp number. Be blessed.